Look at how odd that looks. Why do you think the pillars are where they are and not on the four corners of the building?
Yeah, that is very strange. It looks like a giant skyscraper standing on toothpicks. If a gust of wind hits that thing, we are pancake topping, Sarah.
Seriously, who designs a 59-story tower and forgets how corners work? It's giving me absolute anxiety.
Hey, toothpicks! I hear you down there, pretzel boy! My architecture is an acrobatic miracle, and if you want to know why my legs are in the middle, stop staring at my stilts and look right next to you at that church on the corner.
Did the skyscraper just talk to us?
Just listen to it, Sarah. Do not make it mad.
Thank you. Now, back in the early 1970s, my developers, First National City Bank, set out to build a massive new corporate headquarters in Manhattan, a monument of glass and steel. They successfully bought up almost an entire city block, piece by piece, until they hit a wall. On the northwest corner sat St. Peter's Lutheran Church, an aging stone structure from the early 1900s. The bank threw millions at them, but the congregation flat out refused to budge. A multi-billion-dollar corporate empire was suddenly deadlocked by a single local parish. Finally, a legendary $9 million deal was struck. The church would sell its land, but only under one impossible condition. The bank had to build a brand new, ultra-modern church on that exact same corner.
That's kind of bossy, isn't it?
But wait, then came the real catch, a demand that nearly broke the entire project. The church insisted that 63% of their new building remain entirely freestanding. This meant that I could not physically touch that part of the church. Therefore, my northwest corner would have to hover in the air above their sanctuary like a massive canopy. Now, understand the gravity of this. My northwest corner is exactly where one of my 4 massive supporting pillars was supposed to anchor into the earth. To put it there meant I would have to plunge that giant column right through the center of their precious sanctuary. But that church refused to compromise for a multi-billion-dollar banking empire. They held their ground, leaving my entire corner hanging in midair. So my structural engineer, William LeMeasurer, had to do something radical. He pushed my support pillars away from the 4 corners and stuck them in the dead center of my sides.
Wait, but what about that massive central column right in the middle of your plaza?
Good eye, Sarah. That central column isn't holding me up at all. That's just my elevator core and utility shaft. Remember, the subway lines run directly underneath my center. If we channeled my massive weight down a central pillar, I would have crushed the transit system right into the dirt. So that center column is essentially hollow. My actual structural weight is pushed entirely outward, straight into those 4 center stilts. To keep me from collapsing under my own weight, he built an internal skeleton of giant inverted steel V's, chevron braces. These braces acted like massive arms, catching the weight of the upper floors and channeling it down away from the empty corners.
Oh my gosh. Babe, the church completely ruined its structural aesthetic.
Wow. Talk about unneighborly. I'm totally on the building side here.
Exactly. Thank you. I was a celebrated masterpiece when I opened in 1977, architectural royalty. But then came 1978, and an undergraduate engineering student at Princeton University named Diane Hartley checked my math for her senior thesis. You see, the New York building codes back then were severely outdated. They only required engineers to calculate wind hitting a building dead-on, perpendicular to the flat sides. But Diane calculated what happens during quartering winds, devastating storms hitting the building at a 45-degree angle, blowing straight into my completely unsupported corners.
Wait, the corners that were left empty because of that church?
Bingo! Her math revealed a catastrophic oversight. Diagonal winds didn't hit the flat sides evenly. They swirled around, increasing the structural stress on my joints by a staggering 40%. When Le Measurer checked the student's findings, his blood ran cold. She was right. And then, according to him, he discovered a second lethal secret. Whether it really was a secret remains unknown. Regardless, during construction, the framework builders, Bethlehem Steel, wanted to save a cool $250,000. So they proposed swapping Le Measurer's heavy-duty, rock-solid welded joints for cheaper, weaker bolted joints. And get this, a junior branch of the engineering team actually signed off on it. Because standard New York building codes only tested straight-on winds, the bolts looked fine on paper. It wasn't malicious. It was an approved corporate communication nightmare.
No, bolted joints on a skyscraper with no corners? Did the city shut them down? Punish them?
Yeah, did the builders get thrown in jail?
Jail? Punished. Please. This is Manhattan corporate real estate. If the bank or the city sued the builders, the lawsuit would enter the public record. And if the public found out that a brand new 59-story tower in the middle of Midtown could be knocked over by a stiff breeze, mass citywide panic, real estate values plummeting to zero, a total economic apocalypse. No, they couldn't punish anyone. They had to bury it. The danger was total structural failure. A single 70-mile-per-hour gust of wind would snap those cheap bolts, toppling me straight into Midtown. Normally, I had a secret weapon on my roof to keep me steady. A 400-ton tuned mass damper. A massive block of concrete, 29 feet square, sitting on a pressurized film of hydraulic oil. When the wind pushed me right, a computer slid the concrete block left to counteract the sway. But Le Measurer realized a fatal flaw. If a massive storm hit New York and knocked out the city's power grid, the roof damper would lose power and freeze. Without that concrete counterweight active, my chances of a catastrophic collapse were a terrifying 1 in 16 every single year.
Oh man, did they evacuate? Why are we standing here right now? I just peed my pants.
Local officials and Mayor Ed Koch panicked in secret, drawing up emergency plans to evacuate a massive 10-block radius behind closed doors while keeping the public completely in the dark. But drawing up escape routes was free. Actually fixing my fractured skeleton required serious cash. Legally, because Le Measurer's firm approved the blueprints, his name was on the line for the structural modifications. However, the crisis was caused by a team-wide communication breakdown, not a reckless calculation error by Le Measurer himself. So to pay for the massive emergency repairs, the bank didn't sue Le Measurer for his honest mistake. Instead, they teamed up. Le Measurer's insurance paid out a maximum $2 million policy to shield him from lawsuits, and the bank quietly ate the remaining $6 million retrofitting bill themselves. No courts, no public blame, just cash changing hands in dark rooms to keep the secret buried. With the funding quietly locked down in early August, an army of welders flooded my interior every single night. Working under a strict cloak of secrecy from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m., they tore down drywall, exposed the weak connections, and began welding heavy steel plates over all 200 weak bolted joints while the city slept peacefully below them.
Oh, you poor baby. It hurts my heart hearing what you went through.
I can't lie. The pain was unbearable. But just when I thought it would be fine, 3 weeks into the job when we were only halfway finished, that's when the real nightmare hit. Right on cue, the weather reports came in. Hurricane Ella was spinning up the Atlantic coast, packing 140-mile-per-hour winds, heading straight on a collision course for New York City. And trust me, if I went down before those welders finished, it wouldn't have been a neat, vertical implosion. Because the weakness was in my corners, a 45-degree diagonal wind would have snapped me like a twig. I would have toppled over sideways like a felled 915-foot steel tree. My top half would have sheared right off, gathering millions of tons of kinetic energy, crushing neighboring skyscrapers in a catastrophic domino effect through midtown. The weight would have punched through the asphalt, collapsing the Lexington Avenue subway lines below, trapping or killing up to 200,000 people. But do you want to know the ultimate historical irony? The very first thing to be completely erased from the face of the earth? That church on the corner. The quartering wind would have thrown my massive, hovering northwest corner straight down through their sanctuary roof, turning the congregation that refused to budge into an absolute pancake before I even hit the street. I will be honest. Some days I wish I did topple over. But Ella miraculously veered out to sea at the absolute last second. The disaster was averted, and the welders put their heads right back down, grinding through the night for another full month. By October 1978, the secret midnight retrofitting was complete, making me one of the safest, strongest structures in the city. And the public didn't find out about any of it until 1995.
I cannot believe that church put a masterpiece like you through so much trauma.
Seriously, a 1 in 16 chance of falling over, secret midnight welding, cheap bolted joints, a $6 million cover-up, and they almost flattened themselves, all because they wouldn't move their sanctuary.
Yes, Mark, you summed it up nicely. 50 years later, I still carry the weight of what could have happened, but as a good neighbor, I've chosen forgiveness. Now, I ask you to carry this forward. Go out and share this story.